Hey, I'm Jay Jennings Moss, the editor of the Upstart Business Journal. You're watching The Chum, which is our weekly show that's all about Shark Tank. So, did you watch the tank on Friday night? We had a new shark in the arena. That was Nick Woodman, the CEO and founder of GoPro. You know, that's the company that, it's a camera company that went public in a spectacular way on the NASDAQ this year. One thing about Nick, one very important detail, he has a net worth of about $3.5 billion. To put that in perspective for you, Mark Cuban, the other big shark in the room, he has a net worth of about $2.7 billion, you know, give or take a million or two. The other sharks, if you added the other 5 people who are normally on that panel or sort of circulate in and out and added them to Mark Cuban's net worth, they would all equal what Nick is worth. So clearly a big player in the arena. So on Friday night, let me get right into the best deal of the night. This had to go for the kitchen safe, started by 2 entrepreneurs from California. These 2 guys had met as classmates at MIT, and they developed, basically, it looks like a Tupperware with a lock on it. So you could put candy or cookies or a video game controller or cigarettes and set the time so that after a set amount of time you could get back in and get to your goodies. So they had definitely some interest within the tank, but they had one big detractor, and that was Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, who put down their product, said it was crap, said it was a tchotchke. These kinds of comments really, forced one of the 2 entrepreneurs to come out and to be very forceful and emotional when he said, look, if you don't think that my product is worth that much, then I don't want you to be an investor in my company. It was really strong stuff, and it was that kind of passion that got Nick Woodman's attention even more so. And so Nick, Laurie Grenier, Damon Johns, they all made offers to these 2 entrepreneurs. In the end, it was Nick and Laurie that went in together, offered $100,000 in exchange for 20% of the company. This was a good partnership. Why? Because A, because there's money there, and B, because Laurie's connection with QVC and her connection with retail outlets and Nick's connection with how to build a product and a consumer product, all really good there. So definitely the deal of the night. Now, a little something different this week. I'm going to give you 3 business lessons from the remaining 3 pitches. 1 that didn't get a deal and 2 that did. So the first one that didn't get a deal, that was off the cob. This product was using sweet corn to create tortilla chips. Came from a guy who was a farmer in Ithaca, New York, and had a lot of sweet corn left over. Created this very tasty product, according to the Sharks. Nice packaging all the way around. They liked it. What they didn't like was that he didn't have a good story about how to scale his company. And so here's the lesson here. You have to know how to scale. When you talk to an investor, they're going to ask you that question. How are you going to grow? How are you going to build? How are you going to develop? Have a good answer for that question. One other lesson here is you can't overprice your product. And this was a challenge that he's got going into it, because his product on the shelves is going to be 5 times the cost of a regular bag of tortilla chips, and so that's a challenge. So he didn't get an offer there, but he got some nice PR from his appearance on the Shark Tank. So now the 2 companies that did get deals, but also had business lessons attached to them. One, Magic Cook. It's sort of a cooking mechanism. It's kind of like another Tupperware-like product that had a heating element in the bottom. Great for camping, possibly good if you're sitting at your desk and you want to make some salmon at your desk, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. So the lesson here came from Laurie, and Laurie applied what she described as her 3 rules of sharkonomics. God, I love that term. To this company. Rule number 1, she's looking for something that people are really going to need or want. Rule number 2, she's looking for something that is going to appeal to a broad audience. And rule number 3, she's looking for something that can be produced at an affordable price. In this particular case, she didn't see this company matching the rules of sharkonomics, so she did not make an offer. But Damon John did make an offer, and it was more because of the entrepreneur than necessarily than the product. Although he liked the product, he really liked her, and gave her an offer of $100,000 in exchange for 33% of the company. Now, the last lesson here involves a company called Earthlog out of California, started by an entrepreneur named Tom Sinetti. Now, Tom was looking for $160,000 in exchange for 20% of his company, and the company manufactured these logs that you would use in fireplaces or to start a bonfire, all out of recyclable products, less smoke, smelled better, all of that. That was his pitch. Now, the interesting thing here is that he had way too much demand and not enough supply, and he couldn't figure out how to get that supply, which is why he was in front of the sharks. And Mr. Wonderful came through with a great piece of advice, and it shared something a little bit about Kevin O'Leary, which is that when Kevin O'Leary was building his company, the Learning Company, back in the late 80s, he said he did it in his basement. He said that he had the same problem, that there was way too much demand and he couldn't fulfill the supply, and he couldn't do it in a way that respected his company and that was good for the client. And so what did he do? He brought on a partner, and he gave that partner equity of his 50% share in equity, which is a huge deal. But he said that 5 years later, they sold that company for $4.2 billion. So it was a smart decision to give up that much equity. And Mr. Wonderful said that, that Tom needed to find that 50% guy for himself. Now, Mr. Wonderful was not going to be that 50% guy, but he said he needed to find it. Now, if you've been watching The Tank, you know that Mr. Wonderful oftentimes asks for a lot of equity. I think we now get a sense of why, because he definitely thinks that that adds a great amount of value and that will get you to that golden land in a faster way. But Tom did find a shark here in Lori, who offered him $160,000, not for 50%, but for 35%. So, you know, to take that product, to go into supermarkets, to really expand and to deal with that supply issue. So those are my 3 lessons and my pitch of the night. You've been watching The Chum. I'm Jay Jennings Moss. Now, one thing, there is no new Shark Tank on ABC this Friday night. So make sure that you're not anticipating a new Chum next Monday, but come back next time and we'll have one for you. For a daily fix of entrepreneur and startup news, check out upstartbusinessjournal.com, and thanks for watching.